Pakistan, reeling in economic crisis, appears to be making the same series of mistakes that have caused severe economic disaster in Sri Lanka. While Sri Lanka is on track to secure an IMF loan with Indian assistance, the situation in Pakistan becomes less hopeful by the day. Let's take a look at the current financial situations of Pakistan and the series of grave errors that have left the country's economy near complete disaster.
The Pakistani economy is facing one of its worst crises in history. The country's foreign exchange reserves have almost vanished, and the country is struggling to pay off extremely high levels of external debt. Pakistan is in desperate need of financial support and a bailout package from the International Monetary Fund to prevent its economy from completely collapsing. Although talks with the global financial institution are ongoing, Islamabad has not yet been able to persuade the IMF for a loan. It has, however, received a memorandum from the IMF outlining the terms and conditions for the completion of the loan program. To fulfill the IMF's conditions and requirements, Pakistan has approved new taxes, including a tax on electricity users to raise an additional 170 billion Pakistani rupees, 630 million USD in revenue. The burden on Pakistan's population has become heavier due to the higher tax rates. However, the government, which has no other option, has been compelled to claim that the reforms proposed by the IMF are favorable to Pakistan.
हम कोशिश करेंगे इंशाल्लाह कि पाकिस्तान दूसरी दफ़ा अपनी तारीख में IMF का प्रोग्राम मुकम्मल करे और इंशाल्लाह उसी स्पिरिट के साथ और सॉवरेन कमिटमेंट को सामने रखते हुए हमने ये सारा प्रोसेस जो है वो मुकम्मल किया है.
On one hand, Pakistan is at risk of default. On the other, the IMF is saying it wants more time for negotiations with Pakistan. Meanwhile, inflation in the country continues to rise, affecting the purchasing power of its citizens. Many ordinary Pakistanis are forced to borrow money to afford even the most basic of necessities to keep up with the surge in the cost of living. The record inflation is causing unrest throughout Pakistan. The apex trade body in Pakistan, the Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce and Industry, has also expressed resentment over the government's plan to impose new taxes. As the country lurches from crisis to crisis, Pakistani residents struggle to make a living amid soaring fuel prices. Just prior to the talks with the IMF delegation in Islamabad, the Pakistani government raised fuel prices by 15%. The economic crisis as well as the country's spiraling currency have Pakistan's oil companies teetering on the verge of collapse. Petrol stations are also rationing fuel supplies as a result of widespread reports that there is not enough fuel to go around.
मैंने अभी इनसे कहा कि मुझे टैंकी फुल करनी है, मैं हमेशा टैंकी फुल करवाता हूँ, तो ये कहते हैं 2 लीटर से पेट्रोल ज़्यादा नहीं आपको मिलेगा. मैंने कहा किसने मना किया है, कहते हैं हमें मना किया.
Although economic collapse for Pakistan has been forecasted and as of now seems imminent, the completion of the loan program with the IMF is not near finalized. This is partially owing to Pakistan's history of failing to fulfill the IMF's requirements. One such requirement, for example, has been renegotiations of energy deals with China. Moreover, Pakistan never made any significant structural changes to help reduce government spending or increase revenue. Despite frequently reaching out to the IMF for assistance, any meaningful reforms required by the IMF have failed to materialize in the country. Successive governments in Pakistan have also long used subsidies to woo voters in the country. Islamabad only has itself and its flawed policies to blame for the country's current economic situation. Forming a bad habit of surviving on Chinese dole in the garb of CPEC projects has put the Islamic Republic in a heavily dependent position. Failure to secure a bailout from the IMF will catapult the country into levels of never-before-seen desperation and destitution, and many fear that the country is on course to replicate the economic disaster that plagued its South Asian neighbor, Sri Lanka, last year.